Hello, and thank you for watching this early July 2017 weather outlook for Farm Credit Illinois. My name is Eric Snodgrass, and I am Senior Atmospheric Scientist and co-founder of Agrible Incorporated, and I serve as the Director for Undergraduate Studies for Atmospheric Sciences at the University of Illinois. Illinois has been taken on a rough ride in terms of weather for 2017. Let's start by looking at the last 30 days of accumulated precipitation, expressed as a percent of normal through July 5th, 2017. Remember that in the month that preceded the precipitation data shown on this map, we had torrential rains and widespread flooding throughout the southern half of Illinois. Those rains in late April and early May forced many to replant, and that is why that throughout the state, each field looks to be at a different stage of development. Well, getting back to our map here, we see that June turned dry for many across the state. Notice how central Illinois and areas near St. Louis were between 40 and 60% of normal rainfall. Now, thankfully, some storms during the week of the 4th of July brought some relief to those fields, but those rains won't make up completely for that very dry June. Now, before we look at the USDA crop conditions report data, notice how parts of Nebraska, Iowa, and the Dakotas and Montana have been very dry too. Drought has gripped the far northern Corn Belt, and there's little chance of recovery in this region before harvest. Meanwhile, Wisconsin, Michigan, and the rest of the eastern Corn Belt has been quite wet. My point is this. Across the whole of the Corn Belt, spring and early summer weather has been less than ideal, and when combined with the well above average reports of severe hail and wind damage, there's a pretty low probability that 2017 will be another year of well above trend yields. Oh, and one other thing, farmers in Illinois are battling the return of Japanese beetles. Jeremy Wolf captured this scene while scouting out fields in east central Illinois. Well, let's look at the crop conditions reports from the USDA. This map from the Farm Bureau shows the change in the percent of the corn crop rated good to excellent from last year, 2016, to this year. For the primary Corn Belt, we see several states reporting a significant decrease from last year's ratings in late June. Combine this with the 16.6 million acres that are rated poor to very poor or left unplanted, and it's hard to see this country putting up big corn yield numbers again this year. So, can we use those conditions reports to get an early estimate on yields? Well, plotted here are the week 25, that's the last week of June, corn crop conditions report showing the percent of the crop rated good to excellent on the y-axis against corn yield anomalies, which are differences from trend on the x-axis. Now, the correlation between these two variables is 0.48, which is significant, but as you can see, there's a lot of spread in the data that we have here from 1990 to 2016. Over the last 3 years, the week 25 reports were well above 70% rated as good to excellent, and Illinois was a big reason for that. Each of those years finished well above trend with a record-setting crop in 2014 and 2016. The week 25 numbers for this year come in at 67%. The trendline analysis would suggest a slightly below trend crop for 2017, but due to the spread in this data, using crop conditions reports in late June to estimate yields does not provide the most accurate guidance. However, this does show that unlike the last 3 years, all of which were above trend yield years, 2017 is not really keeping pace. But great July weather can cover a multitude of sins in April, May, and June. So let's look ahead to the forecast. Well, here we're looking at an animation of the winds in the jet stream on Saturday, July 8th. This is the flow pattern that will dominate the first 3 weeks of July, and its main features are a large ridge in the western United States, flanked by a trough of the Gulf of Alaska, and a broader trough centered on the Hudson Bay. Well, here's why this flow pattern is crucial to the health of crops in the Corn Belt. First, this arrow represents the flow of the jet stream. The main ridge axis is here, which is also the position of the center of that dome of heat that accompanies ridges. Having a ridge to the west of the Corn Belt is a very good thing, just like it was in 2016. One, the Gulf of Mexico remains open, allowing for the return of moisture through most of the eastern two-thirds of the Corn Belt. 2, northwest flow in the jet stream is a favorable flow pattern that supports regular thunderstorm development in this region right through here. Now, with all summer thunderstorms, it's a game of hit or miss, but this setup is much better compared to years like 2012, where the ridge axis went straight through Illinois. This jet stream pattern also keeps long, sustained hot streaks out of the eastern part of the Corn Belt. Unfortunately, those regions in the Dakotas and Montana that have been really struggling with drought and heat are too close to this ridge axis to get into a favorable configuration for having thunderstorms and those cooler temperatures, which means the stresses we're seeing there I expect to continue through the rest of the 2017 growing season. But let me show you what we're really talking about here. You see, this animation shows the 10-day accumulated rainfall from July 5th through July 15th from the ECMWF, commonly called the European model. The rain in the Ohio River Valley at the beginning of this animation is from a weak low-pressure system that passes through the area on July 6th and 7th. But notice how the model is favoring precipitation across the eastern Corn Belt from those ridge-riding storms. Now, this does not mean that everyone will be getting the rain, but this is a far better outlook than if that ridge had settled into the Midwest for the whole of the month. Well, looking at the weekly temperatures for July, we see that the 7-day temperature anomalies centered on July 17th has above-average temperatures confined primarily to the west of the main part of the Corn Belt. The probability of seeing above-average temperatures stretching in Illinois increases and potentially stays there through about the 24th of this month. Now, does this mean that extreme heat should be expected? No, this simply means we're looking at the long-range guidance from the European model to give us a clue on where the position of that ridge is going to be bringing in some above-average temperatures through the month of July. Well, as we finish out this video, let's take a very quick look at the global weather pressures on other growing regions around the world. This map shows the 3-month global drought monitor centered on Europe and Asia. And I want to first point out that while major flooding is happening along the Yangtze River, China's ag belt in the northeastern part of that country has been very dry over the last 3 months. The same holds true for several regions in Europe, like this region here in the Ukraine, north of the Black Sea. I just wanted to point out a few regions to watch outside of the United States during this month of July that are also battling some adverse weather conditions during their growing season. Well, with that, we at Farm Credit Illinois thank you for your attention, and we hope that you look forward to our next weather update. Thank you.